In every situation, we must live according to the priorities of God. In fact, He's the one who created everything, and He's the King, the sovereign ruler over everything. He's the owner of everything, and we cannot live without satisfying His priorities, because the priorities of God are our priorities. In fact, the priorities of God the Father were the priorities of Jesus, His only Son, who was sent to earth to give back His kingdom to mankind, so that they could start again living as citizens of the heavenly country, living as children of God in the colony earth, and living as ambassadors for Christ, ambassadors of this government in heaven that's represented on earth as well. So every single civilization system, every single nation, every single system of ideas and philosophies, every religion has been trying to find the way to have this perfect and ideal world brought back on earth. We are all the same, because this is the long search for reality that is in every single human being. We are all the same, and we're all searching for the same thing. Religion teaches you to search this ideal and perfect world, but cannot give it to you, because the only system that can work on earth is a system that comes from heaven, comes from outside, because the earth cannot produce a system against itself. I'm saying this because since man declared independence, the earth itself rebelled against man. So life is difficult down here now. It is difficult because of that declaration of independence. But Jesus has brought back His influence and His impact as a king over this domain, this territory, and we can rule it again. We can rule over it again. Therefore, if this long search implies that something was lost and now has been found again, we should stop searching for it and we should start living it. This is the problem. So the common pursuit of all humans is this: to find what was lost, and once you found it, you stop looking for it and you start living it. Now, the problem of most Christians today is that they have kept looking for that system when Jesus came to give it back to them and say, we don't need any more religion. He said, the law and the prophet until now. But since now onwards, the kingdom of heaven is preached. This is the message. This is the good news, because you've been given the ability, the authority, and the power to live again according to the original plan of God. Therefore, the desire in every human being is the desire to possess the ability to control one's circumstances and destiny. And this term power which I'm using is not in reference to tyrannical, oppressive, dictatorial control over people, but rather the ability to control one's own circumstances and environment. In Matthew 6:33, the statement of Jesus is very clear. He says, seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. All these things will be given to you as well. This is so much important to give us the idea which are the priorities of God for mankind. We start therefore from verse 25 in this 6th chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew. He says, therefore I tell you, do not worry. I'm telling you now. I'm giving you the words of the king. He's a king speaking. And when a king is saying something, what he says cannot be discussed, or you cannot have an opinion different from him. You see, the problem is this with mankind. We always are brought to give our opinion about things. But we must understand that when you live in a kingdom, when you live under a king, you cannot have your own opinion. He says, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? So says, why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that no, even Solomon, in all his splendor, was dressed like one of these. So he says, if that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So living in the kingdom is something that must be done according to faith and with faith. So do not worry, says the king, saying, what shall I wear? Why do you say, what shall I eat? And why do you say, what shall I drink? The pagans, Jesus says, run after all these things. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them. When Jesus was saying pagans, he was saying people that had their religion. Pagans were very religious people. They had their beliefs, they had their rituals, they had their inner and inherent desire to be reconnected to a spiritual and a supernatural system which would be able to control their circumstances of life. And Jesus says, these things, the things that you need to live by according to the natural instinct and needs, God knows, because he's a father. He knows you need them. Don't worry about them, he says. I'm a king. Everything that exists, it belongs to me. Therefore, I'm a king. I can move things, resources. If you need anything, and that thing is something that, according to my plan, needs to be in your hands, it will be in your hands. So don't worry that you will not have the things that you need to meet your destiny. Your destiny is being designed by me. I know what you need, and everything that exists is mine. So why do you worry? I tell you why. Because you don't believe I'm a king. This is the point. If you believe he's a king, if you know he's a king, and you know how to activate that heavenly and kingly system that's been given back to us, you will never miss anything in your life. That's what he says. He says, so your heavenly Father knows what you need. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all the things that you need will be given to you as well. Now, I want to clarify two words that Jesus is using here. In most versions, they are sort of use different translations, but I went back to the Greek version, and I saw that this seek first, this word seek in English is in Greek something which is different, is from the word zeteo. Zeteo is a verb which has different meanings. Now, listen here. The first meaning is to look for, to follow tracks. So Jesus is saying, first thing, follow the tracks of my kingdom and of my righteousness. Then a second meaning is try to know and try to understand, to find out, to discover, investigate. So Jesus is saying, now don't look for things. He's saying, try to investigate, try to know and understand how my kingdom functions. Try to make research and investigate to find out about my righteousness. Then another meaning is try to obtain, desire, long for it. Jesus is saying, first thing, long for my kingdom, long for my righteousness in your life. Then everything you need is here for you because I'm God. And then he says, you should have the desire. That's the fourth meaning of zeteo. Should have the desire of my kingdom, of my righteousness. So you see, Jesus is telling us not to keep searching for him. He's telling us to obtain and to apply and to know how it functions, his system from heaven over the earth. And then says all these things will be given to you as well. That means it will be put in front of you. And as you walk in my righteousness, trying to activate my kingdom, my system on earth, you will fall into it. So you will never lack anything. You will always have everything. My dear friends, put your priorities back into order according to God's priorities. For he's your Father and he knows what you need.